Hey folks, how's it going? This is Gray, followed by 1951, and I'm here to do a top 10 Tuesday list. And yeah, I know it's already Thursday, but I'm a little bit slow. And I don't do a lot of these top 10 Tuesday lists because I don't always have something to contribute, but now it's top 10 musicals. So that I can do, all right? So here's my list, such as it is. And I'm going to start off with what I consider to be the last of the great musicals of the old school, okay? From 1961, this is West Side Story, which started out as a Broadway musical. It basically is Romeo and Juliet set to music in contemporary New York City. And it's directed by Robert Wise. The music was by Leonard Bernstein. The lyrics were by Stephen Sondheim. It stars Natalie Wood, Richard Beamer, Russ Tamblyn, George Chakiris, and Rita Moreno. And the last two won Best Supporting Actor awards for the year. It also won Best Picture. And it's a beautiful film, beautiful music. I mean, really classic music like One Hand, One Heart, Something's Coming, Maria, just a beautiful, beautiful set of music. And also the dancing is very energetic and exciting. Natalie Wood gets a lot of grief for not being a good actress, but I think she's very good in this. She's very emotional, and yeah, it's a great film. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. Next on my list is a film from 1978 that it's directed by Martin Scorsese, the only time he ever did a musical. And it seems to be one film that the Scorsese fans don't really talk about, and that is New York, New York, starring Liza Minnelli and Robert De Niro. And it starts out in the post-war, well, actually it's VJ Day, the day that World War II officially ended, and everybody's celebrating, everybody's falling in love, and Robert De Niro is trying to hustle USO performer Liza Minnelli and does not succeed, but they end up getting together. It's a big romantic comedy drama, and it's all Scorsese seemed to be trying to do kind of a tribute to the MGM musicals of the 1940s, and he had a lot of imaginative sets that did not look real, and he seemed to be trying to show the dark side of that musical fantasy life, and also the musicians and the actors and the actresses who were part of it. So I think it's a wonderful film. It's the best thing, to me it's the best performance Liza Minnelli ever gave. It's even better than Cabaret and her best musical performance too. And De Niro is very, very good. I think there's a lot of chemistry between the two of them. All right. Third film, I decided to include an Elvis Presley film. I'm a big fan of Elvis Presley, especially in his earliest days. And this is his second film. It's called Loving You, 1957. All right. This is not a musical comedy, it's a musical drama. It's very serious. Elvis Presley is at his, well, he's very young, he's just starting out. He was incredibly famous, he was the hottest thing in the country at the time. And this is Elvis Presley before he went into the army and came back basically as a changed man and a changed performer. And he never again showed the kind of energy and the kind of acting talent that he had in these first few films, things like Jailhouse Rock, King Creole, and this film is really the best. And it has a lot of great songs in it, like Teddy Bear, which was a big hit on the radio. And if you want to see Elvis Presley at his absolute peak, and he peaked very early in his career, this is a good place to start, okay? Now let's go to a classic MGM musical starring Judy Garland and Fred Astaire. This is Easter Parade from 1948. This is probably a movie that everybody has seen and everybody likes. It has music by Irving Berlin. And let's see, who directed this? I can't remember. I keep thinking it was Vincent Minnelli, but I don't think it was. I don't know who directed it. Sorry. I should know this, but I don't. Oh, Charles Walters. Okay, sorry. I knew I should know that. Anyway, this is the only time that Judy Garland and Fred Astaire work together, and they are just a wonderful team. And Ann Miller is also in it. She's a great, great dancer. She does some really good stuff in this. Peter Lawford is in it. And sorry, I'm very tired. It's just a beautiful musical. And I don't know, Judy Garland and Fred Astaire were so good together in this. They were supposed to make another film the following year, 1949, called The Barkleys of Broadway. But unfortunately, Judy was too ill to make the movie, so she was replaced by Ginger Rogers. And that was the 10th and final film that Rogers and Astaire made together. So that's kind of cool. But this, she's at her best in this. And she dances every bit. She keeps up with Fred Astaire beautifully. I mean, he has some great solo numbers like Steppin' Out. And it just has so much to recommend it. I highly, highly recommend it. Okay, continuing with Judy Garland. We also have one of the best films she ever made, 1944, Meet Me in St. Louis. Co-starring Margaret O'Brien, also with Tom Drake, Mary Astor, Marjorie Main. This is a classic musical directed by Vincent Minnelli, and it's the movie where, well, the first time that Judy and Vincent worked together, and this is where they fell in love. And I think this is also a classic that almost everybody likes. This great family movie. It's great for kids to watch. Margaret O'Brien was just the biggest little scene stealer in movies, and Judy sings some beautiful songs in this, like The Boy Next Door, the Trolley Song. Just, I mean, it's just wonderful. She's really at her best in this. And this is a movie she was not happy making at first because she couldn't understand what it was about. She couldn't understand what Vincent Minnelli was trying to do. But as it went on and they got to know each other and he kind of got her involved in his vision, she just fell in love with the part. And yeah, okay, Meet Me in St. Louis. Here's another Judy Garland film that I love, co-starring Gene Kelly from 1950. This is Summerstock. And this is kind of a very basic and very simple putting on a show type movie where a troupe of actors come to Judy's farm. She's a farm girl, and they want to use her barn to put on a show, right? Summerstock. And of course she fights them every step of the way, and then she ends up getting the show business bug, and she's the star of the show, right? So it's all very basic and very silly, but it has some great musical numbers. She and Gene Kelly, I think this is the third time they worked together, third and final time, and they have great chemistry. They were great friends in real life. And the best thing to recommend this film is the solo number that Judy Garland does toward the end of the film, where she sings Get Happy, which is one of the best musical numbers ever put on film. So this is wonderful. This was Garland's last film for MGM after being under contract for 15 years. After she had a very difficult time making this movie. She was not well at the time, and she was fired after she completed this film, and they were supposed to give her a rest period, but then they called her back to work in another film, and she wasn't ready, she wasn't well, so basically they canceled her contract, and this is her last film for MGM, but I like this very much. She may have had a lot of trouble in real life and off the set, but when she was on set and working, she gave her very best. Okay? One of my favorite musicals of all time from the year 1933, made at Warner Brothers. This is 42nd Street. One of the first backstage musicals that was really innovative. In the late 20s and the very early 30s, when talkies first came in, when sound first came in, there were a lot of musicals that were made, and they were all very stagey. There wasn't a lot of movement, a lot of interesting camera work. People were just kind of standing on a stage and they were singing and dancing. And as a result, they were very repetitive, and audiences began to get tired of them. So Warner Brothers decided to hire this guy named Busby Berkeley to do all the musical work and design dance numbers and production numbers that couldn't possibly be done on a real Broadway stage, right? But this is another putting on a musical type thing. Very simple plot. And the stars of the film are Warner Baxter, B.B. Daniels, Ruby Keeler, Dick Powell, Ginger Rogers, Una Merkel. It's a very funny movie, but it's also very cynical. It has a lot of truth in it about what some of the people who make Broadway musicals or films in show business, how they treat each other, what they go through, what the women have to go through in order to get work and all that sort of thing. And Ruby Keeler became a star. It was her first film, and she became the musical darling at Warner Brothers all through the 1930s after this. And she's not really a great dancer. She's she doesn't really tap dance. She kind of tap clumps. They used to call her Old Leadfoot because she would look at her feet while she was dancing, and I don't know. Certainly not an Eleanor Powell or Ann Miller, but she was just so wonderful. Everybody loved her, and yeah, it's the classic plot where the star of the musical, B.B. Daniels, breaks her ankle, and they have to call this unknown named Peggy Sawyer, played by Ruby Keeler, to take her place, right? So it's all very silly and very wonderful. And then getting into the more sophisticated musicals in 1950s MGM, this is the Bandwagon, okay? Directed by Vincent Minnelli. It was released in 1953. It stars Fred Astaire, Sid Charisse, let's see, Oscar Levant, Nanette Fabre, Jack Buchanan, and this is kind of it's another putting on a show plot, but in a way it's a lot more cynical. I think by this time Vincent Minnelli was ready to do kind of a parody of himself. He was known for being very excessive in his production numbers, his use of color and smoke and all sorts of things. If you ever see his movie The Pirate from the year 1947 with Judy Garland and Gene Kelly, you'll know what I'm talking about. I mean, it was just beyond excessive. And this shows what happens on the rehearsal side of a Broadway show where everything goes wrong and it's just one disaster after another. And it's really kind of heading toward the end of the cycle of the classic MGM musicals. By the 1950s, they were technically brilliant, but they were starting to kind of fall out of favor. So they were showing a more kind of a cynical edge to some of the films that were being made then. And anyway, I'm not sure what I'm talking about, but anyway, this is a great movie and I think you'd like it. All right. Now I want to show a couple of Astaire Rogers classics because I love everything that they did, and these are two of my favorites. This is Swing Time from 1936, probably the best film that they ever made in my opinion, and it has a great number toward the end where it's probably one of the most bizarre numbers they ever did, but it's brilliant. It's called Never Gonna Dance, right? Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers in this long production number that I don't even know how to describe it, but they do such wonderful things in this. They're very lighthearted. They're just very cheerful, and I just think they have the best chemistry of any film that they ever did. But my number one musical is also Astaire and Rogers, and I'm picking this because it was the first one I ever saw them in, and I've just always had a special place in my heart for it. This is The Gay Divorcee from 1934. It was the second film that they made together. They did a film in 1933 called Flying Down to Rio, where they were just supporting players, and they had never worked together in a film before. But they were so energetic and so funny. And then at the climax of the movie, well, close to the climax of the movie, they danced this thing called the karaoke, and they just became stars overnight. So they quickly put them in a film. This is a film version of a Broadway musical that Fred Astaire had been in with his sister Adele, playing the part that Ginger played in the film. And originally it was called The Gay Divorce, but for some reason they changed the title to The Gay Divorcee for the film. And this is wonderful. They do a lot of great numbers together, including this very long production number about a dance called the Continental, okay? And they're just so cute together. I mean, it's wonderful. And at the very end of the film, when the plot doesn't matter. I mean, it's totally inconsequential. They meet, there's a bunch of misunderstandings, they fight, they fall in love, and at the end of the film, they're just made for each other, right? So they're going off to get married, presumably. So they're checking out of this hotel, this Art Deco fantasy hotel. And without a word, you know, Fred is picking up Ginger in her hotel room, and the bellboys are standing by. And he starts dancing her around the room. And they start twirling and jumping, and he dances her across furniture, and all. I mean, it's just the only way in the world that anybody should ever check out of a hotel. And I just always have a really special place in my heart for this film, The Gay Divorcee. Good place to start with Astaire and Rogers if you've never seen them. So, okay, that's my list. Was that 10 films? I think it was. Top 10 Tuesday on Thursday, musicals. Comments are welcome. See you later.